All rise. The command echoed across the room like a sharp blade. Every journalist, lawyer, and observer inside the packed federal courtroom stood as the doors creaked open. A single figure walked in, slow, composed, eyes lowered not in shame, but calculation. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, wasn't wearing the sleek suit that millions had seen him in during Apple's world-famous keynotes. Today, he looked like a man cornered. And the world was watching. Not through live stream, cameras weren't allowed, but through sketch artists, reporters, and a level of public interest rarely seen outside presidential hearings. He took his seat at the defense table, his lawyers beside him whispering strategy. He didn't reply. His eyes were fixed on the figure seated above him, Chief Justice John Roberts. Roberts wasn't here in his Supreme Court capacity. This was a special inquiry, a federal trial stemming from a months-long investigation into one of the largest privacy violations in modern history. And Tim Cook was the centerpiece, the defendant. The man who allegedly authorized EchoTrace, a secret system buried deep within iPhone 17's OS, capable of tracking users' behaviors, emotions, and voices without consent. Roberts glanced down over his glasses, the courtroom still standing. "You may be seated," he said, his voice calm but sharp. As everyone obeyed, Roberts didn't waste time. "We are gathered here to hear sworn testimony from Mr. Timothy Donald Cook regarding Apple's use of behavioral analytics software known as EchoTrace. This court seeks to determine whether Mr. Cook knowingly authorized, directed, or concealed the deployment of technology that breached the public's trust and federal privacy law." He paused, then leaned forward. "Mr. Cook, let me remind you, you are under oath. The penalty for perjury in this courtroom is no different than in any other federal court. Now tell us, when did you first become aware of EchoTrace?" The courtroom air thickened. Cook's voice, when it finally arrived, was steady, but slower than usual. "To the best of my memory, September of last year." Roberts tilted his head. "Be specific." Cook blinked. "September 12th, 2024. I was briefed by the Special Projects Division in a closed executive session. They showed me a technical outline of what they called a preemptive engagement system." Roberts interrupted. "Is that the internal name for EchoTrace?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And what was your initial reaction?" Cook hesitated, for the first time showing a crack in the glass. "I was intrigued. It was positioned as an optional layer of user analytics that could provide predictive feedback loops. Things like knowing when someone's frustrated by their device before they even send a support ticket." Roberts raised a brow. "And did this system include background microphone access?" Cook nodded. "It did. Temporarily activated microphone pulses, less than 2 seconds at a time, designed to analyze emotional tone, not to record conversations." Roberts leaned back. "And the camera?" "Yes. Brief infrared scans using the front-facing sensor to detect facial expressions. Again, all data was processed through our on-device neural engine, and only metadata was transmitted to our servers." "Metadata?" Roberts repeated. "Not content?" "Correct." "Did the users know?" "No, sir." A pause. The room was silent. Reporters scribbled furiously. Tim Cook folded his hands. His lawyers were completely still. Roberts continued. "Let's jump to November 2nd, 2024. This court has internal emails from that day where you approved a company-wide implementation of EchoTrace across all iPhone 17 units with no public disclosure. In fact, you wrote, and I quote, 'This is the evolution of personalization. The less they know, the more seamless it feels.' Is that your email?" Cook swallowed. "Yes, it is." "And do you stand by that statement?" Cook looked up, meeting Roberts' gaze for the first time. Number not anymore. Roberts took a breath and turned to the documents in front of him. "Mr. Cook, you claim this was a metadata-only system, used for improving the user experience. Yet our technical analysis, verified by 2 independent cybersecurity firms, indicates that EchoTrace collected far more than metadata. In fact, it captured raw emotion signatures, location-linked interaction patterns, and even predicted behavioral triggers such as potential rage quits, anxiety surges, and depressive indicators. Were you aware of this capability?" Cook blinked slowly. "Parts of that, yes." Roberts didn't hide his disbelief. "Parts?" Cook shifted. "The early reports I received from the engineering team did include projections about emotional indexing. I didn't fully understand the depth of what they meant at the time. "You're the CEO of the most valuable technology company in the world," Roberts said, voice cold. "And you're saying you didn't understand the systems your name authorized? I'm saying I trusted the people building them. That may have been naive." The judge leaned in. "Mr. Cook, Apple wasn't just building a smartphone, it was building a psychological mirror. EchoTrace didn't just respond to user behavior. It anticipated it. It adapted in real time. There are logs showing that the system learned when to delay a notification if a user's pulse was elevated, or when to surface a promotion for a meditation app if facial microtensions aligned with stress indicators. That's not support. That's psychological manipulation." Cook was quiet for a beat. "That was never the intention, but it was the result." Roberts pulled another document forward. "This internal chart, labeled Reactive Emotion Mapping, includes user reactions across time, environment, and even social context. Your system knew when someone was sad, when they were lonely, and when they were most likely to engage with content. And instead of pulling back, you greenlit global deployment." Tim Cook's expression hardened. "We believed we were helping people. We weren't pushing products. We were reducing friction." Roberts raised a hand. "Let me read from another internal memo, dated December 8, 2024. You wrote, 'EchoTrace is the closest we've come to a sixth sense. The machine knows, even when the user doesn't.'" He looked up. "Is that helping, Mr. Cook?" Cook didn't answer immediately. "That memo was taken out of context." "No, Mr. Cook," Roberts said, voice rising slightly. "It was taken from your email account." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Cook leaned forward. "Let me be clear. I don't deny I signed off on the system. But EchoTrace was never meant to violate trust. It was meant to improve the human-device relationship, to close the gap between need and delivery. And in doing so," Roberts replied, "you erased the boundary between private thought and corporate reach." Cook looked down at his hands. "I never thought of it that way." "Well, maybe you show EchoTrace?" The courtroom air thickened. Cook's voice, when it finally arrived, was steady but slower than usual. "To the best of my memory, September of last year." Roberts tilted his head. "Be specific." Cook blinked. "September 12th, 2024. I was briefed by the Special Projects Division in a closed executive session. They showed me a technical outline of what they called a preemptive engagement system." Roberts interrupted. "Is that the internal name for EchoTrace?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And what was your initial reaction?" Cook hesitated, for the first time showing a crack in the glass. "I was intrigued. It was positioned as an optional layer of user analytics that could provide predictive feedback loops, things like knowing when someone's frustrated by their device before they even send a support ticket." Roberts raised a brow. "And did this system include background microphone access?" Cook nodded. "It did. Temporarily activated microphone pulses, less than 2 seconds at a time, designed to analyze emotional tone, not to record conversations." Roberts leaned back. "And the camera?" "Yes, brief infrared scans using the front-facing sensor to detect facial expressions. Again, all data was processed through our on-device neural engine, and only metadata was transmitted to our servers." "Metadata?" Roberts repeated. "Not content?" "Correct. Did the users know?" "No, sir." A pause. The room was silent. Reporters scribbled furiously. Tim Cook folded his hands. His lawyers were completely still. Roberts continued. "Let's jump to November 2nd, 2024. This court has internal emails from that day where you approved a company-wide implementation of EchoTrace across all iPhone 17 units with no public disclosure. In fact, you wrote, and I quote, 'This is the evolution of personalization. The less they know, the more seamless it feels.' Is that your email?" Cook swallowed. "Yes, it is." "And do you stand by that statement?" Cook looked up, meeting Roberts' gaze for the first time. "Number not anymore." "Your Honor," said the prosecutor, rising from his seat, "the court would now like to call its first witness." The bailiff opened a side door, and in walked a man in his mid-40s, balding, wearing a simple gray blazer with dark circles under his eyes. The courtroom leaned forward. Please state your name for the record. Dr. Marcus Yen, he replied, former director of machine learning integrity at Apple. Tim Cook glanced over, visibly tensing. He knew what was coming. Dr. Yen was sworn in and took the stand. The prosecutor approached. Dr. Yen, did you work on the system internally referred to as EchoTrace? Yes, Yen replied, voice low but clear. I was on the oversight committee for predictive behavior models. And were you aware of how EchoTrace operated in the wild, once deployed? Yes, he said. We all were. What do you mean, we all? Upper management, the executive branch. I wrote multiple memos expressing concern that EchoTrace's passive monitoring features violated user expectations, if not the law. He glanced at Cook. Those memos reached Mr. Cook directly. The prosecutor handed the judge a folder. Exhibit 12. Internal communication flagged as urgent ethics risk. Roberts reviewed it quietly. Dr. Yen, did Mr. Cook respond to your warnings? Yen nodded slowly. He did. He called me into his office, said the feature was critical to Apple's long-term strategy, and told me, and I quote, "We can't lead the future while asking for permission from the past." Gasps filled the courtroom. Roberts looked directly at Cook. Is that accurate, Mr. Cook? Tim Cook didn't speak immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the table. Yes, he finally said. I said that. The prosecutor continued. Dr. Yen, did you believe the system was dangerous? Not at first, he said, but once the emotion index started affecting real-time decision-making, altering interface timing, manipulating notifications, reordering app suggestions based on mental state, I knew we were no longer just reading data. We were guiding behavior. Judge Roberts cut in. Guiding behavior without knowledge or consent. Exactly, Yen said, and that's where it crossed the line. The next witness was a young woman, early 30s, sharp eyes, confident posture. Please state your name. Julia Kwan, she said. Senior QA analyst, Apple AI division. She testified that she had discovered that EchoTrace's opt-out function didn't actually disable the system, but merely stopped it from displaying analytics to the user. So the tracking continued? The prosecutor asked. Yes, she said. It kept listening, just didn't tell you what it heard. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Even Tim Cook looked shaken. Roberts reviewed his notes. We're not just talking about data here. We're talking about deception, engineered silence, dressed up as innovation. He turned back to Cook. Mr. Cook, did you ever authorize the removal of the EchoTrace opt-out system? Cook's voice was hoarse now. Yes, I did. And why? We believed... He stopped. Started again. I believed that giving users the illusion of control was safer than risking mass rejection of a system we'd already invested too much into. Roberts didn't respond right away. Then, softly, so you lied. Cook didn't deny it. The final blow came when the prosecutor introduced video evidence. This footage was leaked by an anonymous Apple employee. It has not been doctored or altered. The timestamp matches the February 2024 Executive Roundtable, where EchoTrace's global launch strategy was finalized. The courtroom lights dimmed, and the screen flickered to life. There sat Tim Cook in a sleek boardroom, surrounded by Apple's top brass. The audio was clean. A voice, Tim Cook's, said, "The emotional resonance layer is ready. It'll know the user's mental state within 3 interactions. This is what makes us untouchable. They'll think their phones understand them. They won't care how." Gasps, whispers, reporters dropping pens, and Chief Justice Roberts staring like he'd seen a ghost. When the lights came back on, Roberts looked at Tim Cook with something more than judgment. Disappointment. You didn't just fail to protect your users, Mr. Cook. You convinced them it was magic, while it was surveillance. Tim Cook said nothing. The courtroom was silent, stunned by the video they had just witnessed. For a moment, it didn't feel like a legal proceeding. It felt like history being written in real time. Judge Roberts removed his glasses and took a long pause before speaking. This court has heard enough, he said. We've seen evidence, read testimony, And now viewed a recording in which the defendant clearly acknowledges both the capabilities of EchoTrace and the intent to deploy it without informed user consent. What was presented to the public as personalized intelligence was in fact a calculated system of behavioral mapping, conducted covertly and at scale. He turned to Tim Cook, whose shoulders were now visibly sunken. "Mr. Cook, before I render this court's recommendation to federal regulators, you may address the room." Cook stood slowly. His voice was quiet, but steady. "Thank you, Your Honor. I won't waste your time. What we built at Apple was designed to connect people, to make their lives easier, more seamless, more intuitive. But somewhere along the line, we stopped asking what was right and started chasing what was possible. And I take full responsibility for that." He paused. "I didn't order EchoTrace to be hidden because I wanted to hurt anyone. I did it because I was afraid. Afraid that people wouldn't understand what we were trying to do, that they'd reject a system that, in my mind, represented the next evolution of human-device interaction." He looked at the gallery. "But that fear doesn't justify what we did. It doesn't excuse the silence or the manipulation. We thought we were giving people more control by anticipating their needs, but what we really did was take control away." Reporters were scribbling, typing, some even tearing up. There was something surreal about watching the CEO of Apple, the most iconic tech company in modern history, own the fall. Judge Roberts nodded slowly. "You say you were afraid of what people wouldn't understand. But Mr. Cook, that's why we have transparency. It's not just about what people want to hear, it's about what they have the right to know." He turned to the prosecutor. "This court recommends Apple be placed under federal technological ethics review for a period of no less than 24 months. Further, that EchoTrace and all systems derived from its framework be independently audited and suspended until proven compliant. Mr. Cook, while this trial was not criminal in nature, it will be referred to the Department of Justice for further review." Cook bowed his head. "Understood." Roberts looked across the courtroom. "Let this be a warning. Not just to Apple, but to every tech leader watching. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Innovation without accountability is not progress. It's regression. And the law will catch up. It just did." With that, the gavel struck once. Tim Cook was escorted out of the courtroom, not in handcuffs, but in silence. Outside, the crowd of protesters had grown. People held up signs. "My phone isn't yours. EchoTrace equals betrayal. Where is the off button?" In the days that followed, Apple's stock dropped 19%. A record. The company issued a public apology, took down EchoTrace-related code, and promised a full privacy rework of iOS. But for many users, the damage had been done. TikTok clips of the courtroom video hit 200 million views in under a week. Hashtags like stock EchoTrace exposed and Tim Cook testimony trended for days. Tech podcasts, mainstream news, even high school debate teams dissected every word of the trial. And yet, beneath the outrage, a new fear began to form, not just about what Apple did, but about what other companies might be doing. Quietly. As for Tim Cook, he remained CEO, but his presence changed. No more polished stage walks, no more one-liners about magic. He became a shadow of Apple's former confidence, a man rebuilding trust brick by brick, with a world watching every move. And somewhere, in the halls of another company, Google, Meta, Amazon, someone was watching too, listening, learning, not about the scandal, but about how much they could get away with, before someone like John Roberts asked them the same question. Did you know? Because now, every user in the world was asking it too.